I built one of my clients an info business that makes over $750K a year in profit. No, that's not based off of a one-off 30-day period. That's actually based off 6 months of consistent and predictable cash flow. And the truth is, we did it all only working 2 to 3 hours a day without stress, like a super lean team, so very high profit margins, and genuinely changing the lives of hundreds of dream clients. And we did all of that without having to stress out about falling off or coming up short next month, the same way that every other info business is scared of. Now, here's the thing. KJ's problem wasn't that he didn't have enough traffic from YouTube. He was a content creator first. He is pulling in thousands of views. But most businesses don't fail because they don't have enough water. They fail because that water leaks via a faulty sales process, or it just dries up from lack of interest before it reaches the end, like the actual close. Your business is like a faucet, and the leads are the actual water going through it, but the sales process is the path that you design that they take to get to the close. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact 3-part machine that we installed for KJ, the catch, the channel, and the close, that allowed us to turn strangers into paying dream clients without losing people along the way. And I'll break down everything we installed at each part of that machine. That way you can go ahead and build the same predictable client flow inside of your own business. When KJ and I initially teamed up in October, there was not a lot of build in the back end. There was no tracking, no data, not really any clue on what we needed to do to scale. So we went from that like chaotic business to having a really predictable engine. Again, 43K in less than 2 weeks in November, 22K in a week in January, 180K in Q1 of this year. From this super niche like Instagram, super niche YouTube. Again, all while working 2 to 3 hours a day, profit margins over 80%, genuinely changing the lives of hundreds of dream clients. I remember every day this dude woke up to paragraphs on how he'd change people's lives. And all this without the stress of inconsistent months. Everyone else builds info businesses in terms of like hitting the highest cash collected like 1 month, and then the next month it's completely dead. We intentionally sat down and built what I'm about to show you to have a very consistent and predictable and compounding cash flow engine from our info business, one that actually helped tons of people. And so I want to walk you through when KJ and I first started working together. The problem wasn't that he wasn't getting any views. Like I said, he was getting really hefty views, but the problem was it was all funneling to a faucet that was just completely leaky. The lead to book machine was leaking, the book to show, the show to close. Every part of this sales process, again, the faucet, the path that water takes, was just leaking at every point. First order of business was plug that, install systems to make sure that one, we plug it one time, but also two, like these systems that compound bring us cash month over month. And so again, my promise to you is by the end of this video, I'm going to show you everything we installed at each part of the sales machine that we installed for KJ, the catch, the channel, and the close, everything part of the sales process that consistently channeled strangers into dream clients for us without losing anyone along the way. In October, when I teamed up with KJ, he was funneling all his YouTube traffic to a single landing page. It just had a VSL standard and the Calendly link below it. But what was happening on the back end, we had a sub 20% close rate with a 90% show rate. That means people were showing up with really high intent, but there was little to no education or preparation to actually make a decision to buy on the call. So here's another client of ours who runs from YouTube, 40% plus close rate. If we have an over 90% show rate with a sub 20% close rate, we're only getting people with a really high intent, and we're not giving them the proper education or the preparation to actually make a decision to buy on that call. So what was actually missing from his entire business? There was no CRM to track lead data, so we had no idea which exact pieces of content made us money, and we were completely blind to like where each lead was in the sales process. There was no contextual pre-call flows or processes, so every email was just this like mass general thing that didn't serve and feel relevant to each specific lead. And it's very important now that we do this because every person buys differently. We were solely running a book call funnel as well. So in any audience, if you're above 50K a month, this is kind of more relevant to you. There are just different buyer types. It's just like human psychology, people buy differently. And so our sales process needs to reflect that. If we're above 50 to 75K a month, it's important we install certain things like webinars, challenge funnels, all these things that are just different conversion events. Some people buy from book calls, some people buy better from a webinar event, live events. So simply we want to install like different conversion events that serve different groups of people to make sure we're actually liquidating all the cash in our attention. There was no machine to recoup, like no shows, cancellations, no closes. All these people that were qualified by either the Calendly form or a setter, they just didn't show up to the call, or they canceled and no closed. There was no machine in place to recoup all this cash that was previously qualified. So the lowest hanging fruit was the fruit that was being completely ignored. These are the most qualified people, already went through the sales process, already been vetted by the setter, and we're just not talking to them if they don't show up to one call. There's no machine to recoup all that cash. There's no triage process. And so There was no way to keep the calendar efficient, no way to frame the call, educate leads prior to the appointment. There's no way to get actual context in the lead before the actual sales call outside of their form. All these holes in the business, like what did that actually leave us with in terms of consequences, right? Because I lost him a lot more than 50K a month. And there were a couple of things, right? His sales calls turned into education calls. So there was not really any sales being done on these calls. It was all educating on like solution, on the process, like the actual creator. Because there was no triage process, these unqualified leads were just filling the calendar up, burning 8 to 10 hours of calendar time a week, calendar space that a qualified lead would have booked onto. We continuously have prospects that were qualified on paper, like financially qualified, but just were unprepared for the call because of our processes and just didn't end up buying because they didn't have enough information to make that buying decision. So we were losing cash on that end. Even more, we didn't know what pieces of content were actually even generating applications, generating book calls, like actually closing, which videos had a higher average order value. None of this was being tracked. We had no idea what pieces of content were actually making us money. Like I said, every no-show, every cancellation, every no-close, like was just permanent lost revenue. There was no process in place to recoup that money. And I guess more importantly, we were just flying completely blind. Like we had no tracking, no data, like no idea what to do next in the business in order to scale. And this is by far the biggest mistake I see coaches and consultants make. They pour into more leads, more traffic, more eyeballs, more attention, but it's almost like trying to fix like a leaky bucket, but just pouring more water into it, right? The problem isn't like the amount of water you can flood into the bucket. The problem is we're losing significant amounts of that water throughout the entire process. So we stopped focusing on eyeballs, we stopped focusing on attention, we stopped focusing on just flooding this faucet and actually focused on building a leak-proof path that turns actual strangers into paying dream clients without losing anyone at every single step. We want what I like to call the predictable client acquisition model, what we use for every single client now going forward. But just for a second, imagine your business almost like a faucet system, right? Your business is this faucet, your leads like the water going through it. And your sales process is the path that you craft from entry to the actual close. And so from lead all the way to close, this faucet almost acts like the channel that you have them go through. And what takes most coaches too long to understand is that most info businesses fail not because they don't have enough water, but because the water leaks out via the wrong process. And so we needed to build KJ like a consistent leak-proof path. And we did that by breaking it up into a machine that I call the catch, the channel, and the close. I'll explain what I mean. So catch, first off, this is what captures the water. So initially when you go and like, if you have a big ocean in terms of a TAM, like how are you actually catching people, bringing them into the funnel? And so that starts with the YouTube tracking. So we have to understand, okay, what pieces of content are actually making us money? The biggest thing we do here is we can actually, in our CRM setup, go ahead and track every single lead, what piece of content they converted on. And so all we do is look at data, make educated, objective decisions in terms of what's making us the most money right now. We can track show rate, close rate, opt-in rate from videos and specific pieces of content, so you know what's making more of and what's actually making you cash and what's like a waste of your time. The second thing we do that's really important to get people to book a call is this voice note DM setting engine. No one really in this space is doing this right now, and it's a process we came up with KJ specifically. In short, we bring your actual voice into sales conversations, automate outbound, automate every part of the sales process in terms of your DMs. The problem with every other DM setting engine is no one trusts you anymore. If you send someone a DM saying like, hey, thanks for the follow, what are you here for? The trust is just gone. They think it's an automation. It's always just a ManyChat button. The way we crafted our DM setting engine is to be super opposite or super contradictory to what everyone else was seeing in the market. Our setting conversations looked nothing like anyone else in the market. Every single lead felt like it was a different buying experience, felt a lot more genuine. We're taking your authority, bring it into conversations, and just all of a sudden get a lot higher throughput, a lot better metrics compared to everyone else. And so you end up getting ABRs, like, and again, ABR means booking rate. So from a lead, every lead you DM, what percentage of them book in? You get numbers like 20, 10%, 20, 30, like these are unheard of in terms of outbound to actual followers. And again, our sales conversations look really, really different. Again, these are all in the right voice notes that we script out for each of our clients. We went ahead and got so good at scripting these out that people will have full-on conversations with your setter without even being there. These aren't voice notes that KJ went in there and sent himself. Like, we got so good at scripting these conversations that we pre-record these voice notes, and now they get deployed in every single sales conversation, and prospects just end up having entire conversations in your DMs without you being there. It's a lot more trustworthy because it's your voice authority and rapport that you built with them through your own content. But I do want to share with you why this worked really, really well. The voice notes are a big part of that, but these two things are probably even more important. The two things I want to talk to you about are cold offers and then unique mechanism. Now, to start with unique mechanism, there has to be a believable reason why we have something different than everyone else in the market. This is what gives us our moat in your actual niche. Like, what do we do differently than every other one of your competitors? For KJ, it was our outreach systems. We understood that in his niche, people just wanted to get paid from high paying clients. And so they were struggling with outreach. If we created unique mechanisms around what we do for outreach to get people quicker, better results, we're going to win in the market. One keynote here is we don't make up scammy biz ops. New business models that no one's ever heard of before, like freelance brand scaling, there's no longevity there. You just burn out in a year or two. Instead, we just coin our specific mechanisms. Our mechanisms are what we use to get our client from A to B. If we specifically coin our mechanisms, we can always change those out. All we do is we coin our mechanisms and use that as the magic in our sales process. For KJ, high value outreach was his very first introduction to the space. No one in his niche was doing that in terms of getting clients. So it was a really new idea. We can build a lot of magic around that. And so as I got saturated, instead of burning out like most info businesses, we can switch our mechanism out and use what's working now. DM Lightning was our updated version of our outreach method that we can now use on stories, on emails, like everything in terms of our marketing. We can use this specific mechanism, the magic around our offer, why it works so well, and use that to market it super effectively, have the same effect as someone who's trying to coin a business, but we build it with longevity. There's respect behind that. The reason why these worked so well for KJ is because we knew in his niche, people just wanted to get paid from high-paying clients. They just struggled to get people on the phone and close them. And so if we introduce a mechanism around outreach, their biggest bottleneck, right, and we do it with mechanism, not the actual business model, we can have a lot more longevity, but also still build that same magic that a lot of these top guys do that burn out in 1 to 2 years. The second thing I want to get into is cold offers versus warm offers. An example of a warm offer is someone from the big personal brand. They put out this warm offer to their audience. It doesn't really follow, like, again, typically best practice for an offer. It's just like leaning on their personal brand to convert. The problem with a warm offer is, one, it only converts like 10 out of 10 leads. Whereas a cold offer, because it actually follows best practices, it presents a timeline for the actual guarantee. A cold offer has a time frame, an actual risk reversal, all these best practices. We can convert 6 out of 10s, not just 10 out of 10s in terms of lead scores, but we can also scale with paid. If we only build a warm offer in mind, like for example, coining your specific business model as a new idea, that offer will do horrible in paid. But if we build a cold offer in mind with the actual timeline, with again, a risk reversal, like guarantees, if we actually have good fulfillment, we can infinitely scale that. So there's never gonna be a cap to who we can convert, what audience we can target. We're always gonna have scalability. Because we build our offer for cold, it performs 10 times better with our warm audience than people just building warm offers. Warm offer is weak. It's a lazy attempt to just like get by with your brand. A cold offer is a irresistible no-brainer offer that could scale with cold, but instead we put it in front of a warm audience and it just performs like crazy. We convert 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10s instead of just like 9s and above. That's the power of a cold offer versus a warm offer. And so by tracking exactly what content made us money, a good setting engine, having a unique mechanism like magic around the offer, having a cold offer instead of a warm offer, we went from 3 calls a day to 12 hyper qualified calls a day with just, again, 6K followers, a really niche personal brand, a really niche Instagram, still able to convert all this attention, all this cash. Now, we talked about lead to book, but I want to talk about book to show. This is another part of the process that a lot of guys, especially with strong YouTubes, just can't seem to get right. And it's our pre-call protocol. This is where most coaches lose like 40 to 60% of their cash on book calls. And even if you are closing them, this is where you're losing your average order value, meaning you're probably not getting people to commit as much as they possibly could based on your process, based on your pre-call, from your actual book to show machine. This is where all the selling is done. This is where most people lose a shit ton of cash. This is my favorite part to touch because this is where most people just lose the most amount of cash. And so very first part of this process is pre-call via sell. As soon as they book in, like, we want to help them do research. Our intention with building a book to show machine is to warm them up so they're ready to buy. If you had no closer, what would you put in your sales process to make sure they still converted if it was an add to cart, not like an actual closer walking through the process? So the first step of that is actually helping them do their research. Whenever anyone books a call, they're going to do their research on you no matter what. So the biggest thing we can do is help them do that research and give them context around that. As soon as they book in, they get hit with a page like this. This is like another client of ours, Hubs Barbers, really fucking sick offer. We have a 90-second video on top framing the entirety of the pre-call process. Again, who's going to hit them up, who's going to contact them, what assets they're going to be required to watch to educate themselves. Then we have a full-blown VSL going over the entire sales argument, good cold offer, unique mechanism, why the unique mechanism works, the process. On the very bottom of this page, we have FAQs, the most common questions. What are the most common questions your sales team gets asked, and what are the most common objections? And how can we address those specifically in video format before the call? Imagine how much more powerful like you handling an objection versus your sales rep. If they hear it from your voice, they're already pre-framed and ready to buy when they get to the actual call. And so this page alone, if set up the right way, literally boosts close rates like 20 to 30% like off rip if you build it the right way and script all these assets the right way. Second part of all this is like non-CTA contextual email sequences. Based on the data they give you from the Calendly form or Typeform, you can use that information to build contextual sequences before the call. When I say email sequences, I don't mean like CTAing them to a bunch of stuff. I mean literally just like framing material. Based on certain objections you get, you can have them read emails that specifically handle those objections. No links, no CTR, we're just having them read content. Sometimes we send like a 6 a day of these. The really cool thing is if your emails are good, no one's gonna complain. If your emails suck, you're gonna get a lot of pushback on that. So biggest key here is like know your audience very well, use the relevant data they give you on their application form or the book call form, and have a good copywriting team behind you. And what you'll end up seeing is you'll get a lot more consumption on like their written content before the call, and that written content is a lot more powerful than video content sometimes. Some people like to read a lot more, you get a lot more consumption on that end, just different buyers. Last part is hyper relevant case studies. If you're watching this, you're above 20K a month or like somewhere around there, you probably have a couple people you work with before that got amazing results. And the biggest thing we wanted to leverage is like these results, but contextually. For example, Robert, Sasha, more Europe, UK, we send those to those leads. Brandon, Ethan, more US, send them to US based leads. Even guys like Griff who are more contextual, like college to copywriter full time, we send this to all college students we have on the calendar. You'll find that as you collect more case studies and get the right pre-call processes in place, you'll have a case study for every single archetype of person that comes through your funnel. So before they speak to your sales team or you, they're watching someone just like them in their exact same situation actually make the change they're looking to buy into. So it's super, super powerful. Up until this point, we have how we're booking people in, how we're tracking pieces of content that make us most money. And then we also have a pre-call protocol that pre-sells these leads, pre-suades them before their actual sales call. But how do we actually close them on the call? And so take Ben, for example. Ben was one of KJ's sales reps before I jumped in the offer. He was at 17% close rate in September. We jumped on like 1 or 2 calls. He jumped from 17 to 46% in October, which is actually insane. But all we did was build a script for him that actually addressed every single objection that he typically got. We just pre-handled every objection before the actual price drop. So he was only pitching price when people were ready to buy. If we tailor a sales framework for a specific offer, we can get people really, really bought in before we ever pitch price and whatnot. Most offer owners are trying to invest so much into objection handling and hard closing people, but you end up with dream clients when clients come to the call, 1, ready to buy, but also 2, feeling like this is the right decision at the right time. And we didn't make this jump by teaching them a bunch of objection handling, dojo stuff. All I did was show them how to properly conduct a discovery, how to pre-handle objections before they came up, how to only pitch when people are ready to buy. And so what you'll find with dream clients, if you build a sales process for them, they will convert. And so if you have a tailored sales framework for your specific offer, your specific ICP that speaks to them, we can 99% of the time literally just eliminate objections before the actual call. And so sales calls just become enrollment calls instead of education calls. And so what's the result of having clear YouTube tracking, what content makes the most money, a setting engine that actually works, unique mechanism matched around the offer, cold over a warm offer. We have a pre-call protocol that pre-suades and pre-sells people, a closing process built for your specific offer that doesn't hard sell people, that relies on pre-handling objections. The result is a genuinely predictable info business. Like this runs anytime a drop of water comes into our funnel. And so what you'll find is from your existing attention, like no increase in volume, you'll already have more book calls, you'll have more showed calls, you have more paying clients. There's no leaks, there's no wasted calls. By plugging each of these leaks in the bucket, we had more book calls every month. Not to mention the business went from 19% close rate from YouTube to 62% within a 30-day period. And now we were doing consistent 75K a month predictably, just month over month, like automatically. So if you're a coach already selling through YouTube, doing like 15 to 20K a month, I'll walk you through the exact process, like everything you need to do like as a game plan. Very first phase, we need to audit your leaks. We need to build you a complete tracking and dashboard build out. We need to make objective decisions over subjective ones so we can actually build toward predictability. Second thing is our offer optimization. So we need to figure out, is your offer currently a warm offer or a cold offer? Like, do we have unlimited scalability with the cold offer? Can we convert 6 out of 10s? Or are we stuck to just converting 10 out of 10 easy layup calls? Is it a no-brainer offer? Is this an offer that people have to be super bought in to even consider, right? And then lastly, like figure out where are you losing people right now? And so what this first build out will help us do is figure out where are you losing the most people right now? Are you losing people from your lead to book, book to show, show to close? All these questions, like we want to figure out like what is the highest leverage place to take action in currently in your business? Because again, the biggest thing is like how do we make the most impact the fastest? That only happens through data. And so second stage would be installing the actual machine. Everything we talked about, depending on where your actual bottleneck is in your current stages, whether it's close rate, whether it's show rate, we're gonna work on plugging each of these leaks in your faucet. What we'll spend time doing is crafting the sales process. We're gonna meet one-on-one every single week to actively iterate and stabilize every single metric. We wanna build systems that are predictable. Again, the key term of this video is just predictable. I don't wanna run a business, stuff changes every single week. We wanna run a business where bottlenecks stay behind us. And so we'll meet once every week to actually actively iterate and stabilize everything. So the second thing is we'll install backend systems. So once we have a proper faucet system that does not leak any water, we have strangers turning into paying clients, we'll install backend systems, things that allow us to get better processing fees, collect more MRR per client, all these things that allow us to actually scale, collect money on places where we're already losing it on the back end. And then lastly, when we're at that stage, like 50 all the way to 100, 150K, we're going to install different conversion engines for different buyer types, like challenge events, webinar events. All these help convert more of your actual TAM and then more of your actual existing audience. And we're able to make more cash than just running a book call funnel where not everyone converts through. If you're a coach right now already selling through YouTube, like around 50 to 20K a month, already have a proven offer, you want more book calls, more show calls, like clients from your existing attention, and you want to install a predictable client acquisition model into your own business, like the setting engine, the sales framework, the tracking, content systems, the follow-up, everything. If that sounds like you, I'm happy to do a quick audit. Drop my Calendly in the actual description that we can have a quick chat and jump on. But regardless, I want to leave you with some final thoughts. Your business needs a predictable, reliable engine to turn every single lead, every single view, every single piece of content into actual cash for yourself. That being said, any questions you have, go ahead and DM me on Instagram. You'll find both that and the Calendly for the audit in the description. Hope this helped. Talk soon.